Hi, my name is Coach Jim O'Connor from wellnessword.com, your trusted body transformation advisor. In today's video, I'm going to discuss, are processed foods really that bad for you? Here's the dilemma, folks. In today's society, we look at processed foods versus unprocessed foods or unrefined foods as good versus evil, right? Unprocessed foods, minimally processed foods are good. We need to eat a majority of that. That's what our diet should consist of. And if we eat anything processed, it is quote unquote bad. Have you heard that before? Is that your thinking? What I call that an all or none thinking. Unfortunately, in the weight loss industry, there's way too much of that going on. It's either good or it's either bad, and there's nothing in between. And that confuses people. It confuses consumers, and it has people end up falling off the quote-unquote nutrition or healthy eating wagon, and the guilt develops because they feel they're quote-unquote eating bad foods or good foods. Well, there are things in the middle, and I just want you to understand that. But let's talk about processed versus unprocessed foods. Should you even consider eating processed foods, or is that a big no-no to your health? Well, let's tackle that. First of all, let's define the categories here of processed foods and unrefined foods. Let's start with category number one, would be unprocessed, minimally processed foods. Now, what exactly is that? What's an unprocessed, minimally processed food? That would be a whole food, correct? Such as an apple, such as a piece of chicken, such as a piece of beef, fish, vegetables, fruits, nuts, legumes in their natural form. That is an unrefined, unprocessed, or minimally processed food. The second category is processed foods. Processed foods are canned foods, cheese, ham that is cured, protein bars as an example. What about the milk you drink if you drink milk? What about whole grain bread? Isn't that supposed to be healthy for you? Well, it's processed. There is some processing going on with that as well. So those are examples of processed foods. What about the next level? What about the next category? Would be the culinary processed ingredients, such as salt, such as sugar, such as certain olive oils or canola oils. I mean, that is processed. And now let's get into the last category. That's the ultra-processed foods. The ultra-processed foods would be your cereals, your canned foods, your frozen foods when you go down the frozen aisle, TV dinners, baked goods, brownies. That is ultra-processed. Some of your white breads. Juices are as well. So that is your pizza, of course. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So those are the categories that you need to understand. Now, is it bad to eat in the completely ultra-processed category? Remember what I said in the beginning of the video. There is no good and bad. This is just food. Folks, we need to understand one thing. We need to understand is that there's a spectrum here. There's a spectrum. So let's talk about the unprocessed foods. You need to eat a majority of your diet in the unprocessed, minimally processed foods. And you need to eat the next level. You need to eat a little bit. You can have a little bit more of the processed foods. Yes, I just said that. You can have processed foods. Can you drink milk? Of course you can. Can you eat cheese? Of course you can. Part of a normal, natural diet. And what about the culinary ingredients that are processed? Can you have some of that? Yes, of course. You can have a little bit of salt, a little bit, I'm using the word little bit, of sugar. You can cook with some oils, right? Of course. And what about the ultra-processed food? This is the taboo. This is something you should stay away from, right? Well, here's what I say. I wouldn't say completely stay away, that it's absolutely evil. I would say that you need to limit it. Eat the least amount in that category. So you should be, a normal diet should consist of all categories, with a majority of your nutrients coming from the Unrefined, unprocessed foods. Now, I hope that makes sense. Remember, there's not an all or none. There's eating well at the unrefined, unprocessed foods down to, and it's a spectrum, it goes down to the refined, processed, highly processed foods, which aren't as good, and we want to try to stay away from as much as we can. I like to use the word limit. Limit. Not eliminate, just limit. Because if you do eat a food that's processed like that, are you going to beat yourself up over it? No, that's a small part of your daily allowance for your diet or your weekly allowance. So don't sweat it. So when it comes to deciding what you're going to eat in your nutrition, if it's going to be processed or not, first of all, we have to agree that eating in the processed foods is not going to quote unquote kill you. It's not as bad as we think. So we want to have some in each category. If you can eat completely unprocessed, fantastic. But sometimes if you're like a distance runner, you're not going to get enough calories eating like that. Because what makes the processed foods so quote unquote not great for you? It's number one, they're loaded with salt, they're loaded with sugar, and they're loaded with higher fats. That means the caloric intake is astronomical. It adds up quickly because the foods are highly palatable and it doesn't fill you up long. So you're going to eat more of it, the calories are going to come on quicker. And that's the difference there. That is the absolute difference. Now I want to thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Now don't feel bad if you eat a processed food because that is part of a normal diet. Just limit the processed foods and try to eat more unprocessed, unrefined foods. But for taking the time to watch this video, I have a special treat for you because I know it's the beginning of the year and I know that you want to feel better, look better, and actually perform better. So the treat I have for you is a new report that I've created that will help you. I list the top seven ways to actually prime your brain, to train your brain into permanent fat loss. None of this yo-yo stuff anymore. These are 7 things you can do right now based on the newest, hottest, latest neuroscience of weight loss that you can implement immediately. So all you need to do is go to my website right now or click the button below this video and you'll be taken to a special page. And it's 100% free to get this report. It's called Fat Loss Forever, the top 7 ways to prime your brain into permanent fat loss. So go ahead, click the button below on this video and I'll see you at Wellness Word to get Fat Loss Forever, the top 7 ways to prime your brain into permanent fat loss. Thank you so much for watching the video and take care.